jump or two. It was a decent size though. Oh, that's nice. Oh, fish on. Fish on. Oh my God, that's a hog. Please stay on. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my God. Woo! Whoa! Whoa! Oh! Did you see that jump? Oh, fish on, fish on. Oh, nice one. There we go, there we go.
All right, welcome to Whiskey Tango Fishing, folks. We are here live for another episode of Hook, Line, and Service. Today, we're going to get a chance to meet and chat with Desert Storm and U.S. Army veteran Bob. As always, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, give us a thumbs up. Put your comments down below. The chat is open. And with that being said, we're going to bring in Bob here. How we doing, Bob?
Doing good. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. You're out there in that sunny California weather, aren't you?
Oh, loving it.
So welcome to Whiskey Tango Fishing. Again, we're here for Hook, Line, and Service. So this is all about you, your story, your service, what got you into fishing, all that kind of stuff. So we'll start off with what's your background? What's your story? Where you from originally?
Like I tell everybody, if you want to know where I'm from, I'd say pick a year. Um, my father is or was career military.
Gotcha.
And so I was born on a military base and lived on a military base all my life until I got out myself. So
Sweet.
I was born, or as I say, back when I was born, the military's philosophy was if we want you to have a family, we will issue you one.
Yeah, I remember
So
hearing that.
so I tell everybody I was issued at Fort Knox, and and lived like I said, I've lived all over the U.S. and all over the world, basically since then, until I got out of the military myself. So.
Sweet, sweet. So you were career Army.
I wanted to be. I found out that the military was changing in ways that I was not in line with, I guess you could
Gotcha.
say. So I didn't do a full 20 hits like
Understood.
or plus like my father did. But
Understood.
I got out of the regular army, and I went into the reserves,
Okay.
and was going to continue my service in reserves, and I ended
Sweet.
up having an accident, and because of that, I was medically discharged.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So so you've been all over the country, all over the world. Um,
Hmm.
where does your family have roots? I know your father was career military too, right? Was he a military
Yes.
brat?
No. No.
No.
My dad is my dad's family, I guess you could say, from his childhood, um, is from Indiana. He's
Indiana. Okay.
from Right. He was born in Indianapolis, but he was raised in South Bend. Um,
Sweet.
and then my mother Her family is from Illinois,
Oh, okay.
central southern part of Illinois, along the Indiana Illinois state line.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, that makes a little sense. Now, as far as your service, you were in over at Desert Storm.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I played in the big sandbox. I
All
think
right.
if I was still if I was to get my duffel bag out now and turn it upside down, I'd still be able to get a little bit of sand out of it after all these years.
I hear you. You never seem to get rid of it once it's in there, right?
No, I can probably find sand in a few cracks and crevices on my body still if I try.
I hear you. Oh
It
man,
gets everywhere.
I hear you. I hear you. Oh man. Well, hey, it goes without saying, thank you for your service and everything that you did for the country. A shame that you got hurt and that cut it short. But again, you dedicated a significant amount of your life to the serving the country. So, that's nothing to shake a finger at. Um, did you now? When did you get into fishing? Did you get into it as a kid, or how did that all come about?
Oh yes, yes. My father was a avid fisherman.
Okay,
I had many times growing up. It'd still be dark out, and I'd feel a shake laying in bed, and Dad's like, "Hey, come on, let's go fishing." And so I'd wake up, roll out of bed, throw some clothes on, and we'd head off to the river or lake or stream or whatever was in the area, wherever we were at the time,
gotcha.
and and spend most of the day, if not all the day, sitting there talking and BSing and fishing with Dad. So, and that some of my earliest memories of time I spent, with my father. So,
That's sweet. And it's funny because it's an awesome bonding opportunity when you're
oh
out
yeah,
there, father son, or like I'll take my nephew or my I say my cousin's kid, but he's like 21, 22 years old, and he likes fishing, but he doesn't know a lot about it. So
right.
I try to include them as much as I can. Although my nephew, who's in his mid-teens, he caught a 6.11 pound bass last year, and I haven't been able to beat that yet. So he's retired from fishing. Right, he don't want to go again until I break that number. But yeah, no, it's cool when you can take kids or even people that are new to fishing, right? I love taking people that are new to fishing and kids and people that are new to fishing. That's usually the only time that I'll use live bait. If I'm using live bait outside of that, it's because I had some left over from the day before when I took somebody who was a kid or new to fishing.
Right.
Because I want them to have the best opportunity possible to try, to catch something and get bit by the bug and
Right.
everything. But now, because you moved around a lot and um, military family and everything, did you fish for specific species? Did you just kind of throw stuff out there at random and whatever you could catch, or how did you guys do it?
Um, I guess you could say it really depended on where we were.
Okay.
Um, if we were fishing like a stream or a river or something like that, most of the time we're just trying to get anything to bite. Um, but I think most of the time we were probably almost likely fishing for catfish.
Gotcha.
Um, if we were pond, stream, or pond, lake, something like that, then we're fishing catfish, of course, but also just any bluegill. Growing up as a kid,
Hmm.
um, with the little bitty short poles that Dad always gets you, or something like that. The fight of the bluegill will give them one of those. As a kid,
Yeah.
that's one of the best. And yeah, I'm 59 years old. I'm still a little kid at heart. So the fight
Right.
on that little bitty pole, it still excites me to this day. You know,
Yeah.
but to watch, one of my grandkids, uh, or even any just random little child that's fishing close to where I am, watching the expression and hearing them, the excitement that they have
Yeah.
of catching a fish like that. It even the little bittiest bluegill is going to give them a fight, and they love it, and I do too.
Yeah, and it's I love watching that too. I've seen so many videos where a kid with one of those little poles, and he's fighting his little butt off, right? And you think that there's a
Exactly.
monster on the end of the line, and it's just
Yeah.
like you said, like a little
And-
bluegill. I've also seen little kids like that pulling in these monster bass,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's just awesome, and like you said, to see their face light up, and it's funny because I tried out. I historically I couldn't catch a trout if I walked past one in the ShopRite seafood section. Right, that's just how my luck always was. But last year when I was starting up the channel and everything, I said I want to branch out a little bit. So I did okay with the spring trout stockings, and then I went in the fall when they did the fall trout stockings, and I was talking to a lot of the trout anglers there at this other lake, uh, where I was fishing for fall trout, and they were saying that the one day the guy was saying he was out there and there was another guy and he had his kid with him, and the kid had, it was a young kid, and he had one of those little poles like that, and they're sitting out there with their power bait not getting bit for anything, right, for hours, and this kid picks up the 3 foot pole and throws it in, and he's pulling in these monster trout like one after the other, and they're like, what the heck is going on? So it's funny because I always tell people it doesn't matter how much money you spend on gear, right? You get what you want, what you can afford, and what you feel like spending money on. But no matter how much money you spend, it doesn't mean that you can't get outfished by a kid with a little Spider-Man pole or something like that, right? And I always love it when I take somebody fishing that's a young kid, especially, or somebody that's new to fishing, but young kids especially, and they outfish me. I love it when they're catching more fish, and I don't care if they're bluegill or what they are, as long as they're catching
Doesn't matter.
stuff. Is that one of your grandkids
Exactly.
in the picture that James sent over for the thumbnail for the video?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. That's
okay.
that, that's one of my grandsons, and that was his first fish he ever caught.
Oh wow.
Um,
Now, what's the story
so
behind that? Is there a story or anything that goes along with it, or?
um, my s- my son and his family at that time, he was in the service and he was
Okay.
stationed at Fort Carson in Colorado,
Okay.
and they had decided to come visit uh, for the week,
Hmm.
and so they drove uh, from Fort Carson. At that time, I was living in Tennessee,
Okay.
Paris, Paris, Tennessee, right next to Kentucky Lake, not too far from Fort Campbell.
Okay.
Um, so anyway, they came out for a visit, and we decided we were going to go out to the lake and go fishing. So I had, of course, my son was with us,
Hmm.
my grandson and his sister, my granddaughter, and we were all out there fishing, and we were fishing basically right off the bank, but at the state park marina,
Okay.
um, and just tossing up next to the docks, and I would toss it out there and hand the pole to him, and he would reel it in,
Gotcha.
and he started reeling it using a little 5S, uh, I don't know, a size 5 floating Rapala,
Really?
uh,
Okay.
s- silver Rapala, just flipping it up there and just letting him control it in real slow. And they say, oh, water exploded, and and he's like, Papa, I got blood. So when
And
he
that's
he
great.
finally he got that pulled in, and he was, he strutted around like a little Benny Rooster the rest of the weekend.
Oh man, that first fish, man, it gets them all puffed up, right? We got a chat coming in. Says, what's your opinion on best or last effort bait for a day where you're kind of skunking, right? If you're out there fishing and you're getting skunked, what's the last effort bait that you're gonna throw to try and really your confidence bait that you feel you're gonna get something and not get skunked on the day.
my 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 confidence bait, I would say almost always, if I have a gold leaf, black and yellow rooster tail,
Gotcha,
um, I can almost always. I may not catch anything, but something's gonna hit. I'll get a bite.
gotcha.
Something's gonna hit it.
Nice.
Almost almost, I'd say 99% of the time. If I've got that bait,
Hmm.
um, I'll I'll feel something hit it.
Gotcha.
Um,
Now, do a lot of people use the rooster tails out there by you now? Do they still use them?
they're still they're still in the bait shops. They're still
Hmm.
if you go to any of the stores that sell any kind of lures or anything like that,
Yeah.
you still see them. So it's not like it's one of those things that they're going to pull it off the shelf because nobody's buying it. Um,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
so, so I would assume that yes, it's still being used.
Gotcha.
Also, the same color scheme in a smaller spinner bait is also something that's something of a go to for me. And then
Okay.
also, I've always I've always been uh, a fan of using the Rapala uh, lures,
Gotcha.
whether they be the sinking or the floating. It just depends on uh, depends on where I'm at. What type of water uh, I'm fishing in, what have you.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I used to have quite a few Rapalas. I don't anymore, but that's on my list of stuff that I want to start getting more of. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he's had a couple that have worked well for him these past few seasons. And then rooster tails, I do have. Most of the ones I have are smaller,
Hmm.
and I did try throwing them a little bit for fall trout because they'll stock the 2 year olds and the 3 year old breeders in the fall and the winter, right? So I
Hmm.
did throw them a little bit for that. I don't, and the reason I asked if people are still using them out by you is I never see people throwing them out here, and
Huh.
that's one of the reasons that I tried it because when I look for lures, obviously like I'll have my ones that like back in the day it was spinner baits and buzz baits, right? And then I kind of switched over to poppers was my go-to, and then I discovered the chatterbait, and that's like my go-to confidence bait is a chatterbait. um
Hmm.
and I'll use that stuff, but if everybody else is throwing something, I try to throw something a little different, and
Yeah.
that's what got me thinking about the rooster tails. And I think I have a couple larger ones that I got for when I go for pike and stuff like that. I just haven't used them bass fishing yet, but like
Right.
I love hearing that perspective and hearing other anglers talking about them because um, it's stuff that we all get set in our ways, right? We have certain things that we like to do, and then I hear you mention that, and it's like you forget about certain lures or certain techniques that when I was a kid we threw rooster tails all the time, and
Right.
you just don't see it much anymore. And it's um it's 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 funny,
It,
and because
it's one of those. I've been using them ever since I was little.
yeah,
And it's the old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
a fish is a fish. A fish is a fish is a fish.
yeah,
They've not changed in the last 40 years.
yeah,
So if they bid on a bait 40 years ago, they're going to buy on a bait today. You know,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
so if you throw something that nobody else is throwing, you're more apt to to get a bite to land a fish. So
And, and
that's my thought process on it.
and that's what it comes down to too. And a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it too. Over the years, there have been techniques or lures that I avoided because I wasn't used to throwing them and I didn't have that confidence in those baits, right? And once I started forcing myself to use lures that maybe I avoided or just hadn't tried before or for whatever reason, you're not gonna you're not maybe going to catch a fish on it the first time you throw it, right? You got to kind of get used to that technique and figure out how working it is going to get that response and get you those bites. But um, if you don't ever throw it, you'll never build up that skill and you'll never build up that confidence in that bait. So
Yeah,
so there's times where I'll throw something that I'm not used to throwing, and I'll just sit there and keep working it different ways and seeing how it reacts and what it does. And if something bites it, then I try to make a mental note. Okay, this is what I was doing that
right.
when it got hit. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so that
I do I do the same thing. So it's am I pulling it in too fast? Am I not? Am I pulling it in too slow? Do I need to jerk it? Do I need to do I need to swing it back and forth? Whatever. Just keep trying something until you find what works, and then like you said, make a mental note and remember. But then
exactly,
again,
exactly.
but then again, the next week, the exact same thing might not work.
And you
Maybe
know what? It's
the weather
it's
may be
funny
too
you say
cold
that.
or maybe too hot, or so it just depends.
Well, it can change from day to day, and it can
Right.
change depending on the body of water that you're at. Like I said,
Exactly.
there's this one lake that I go to, and if I'm somewhere else fishing and I'm getting skunked, and I have time to get to that lake on my way home for an hour or so, I'll go to that lake and throw stuff for about an hour because I rarely get skunked. For some reason, the laws of physics don't apply at that lake, right? And I'm gonna get bit. Um, so it's funny, the conditions can change, and like you said, what works one day might not work the next. I may go back to it and try it, but if I'm not having any luck with it, then I'm going to change it up. I'm going to throw something different, or I'm going to work that lure faster or slower, or add more pauses in, or
Right.
whatever the case may be, to try and differentiate it. And it's a lot of times people are hesitant to do something different, but sometimes you have to, right? Have you done any fishing abroad in other countries?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
Where at, and
We
what are those stories? What are some of those stories?
um actually that's not too bad. We did go fishing quite a few times when we lived in Germany,
Oh, sweet.
and that was mostly river fishing, of course.
Okay.
Um, and then I did get a chance to do some fishing when I was stationed in Korea,
Oh, wow.
and that was an experience, and that was ocean fishing. Um,
Okay.
and
What kind of stuff did you fish for in Korea?
whatever you can catch. Um, yeah,
Anything
honestly,
unusual?
not really. No. We did catch. Uh, we did catch some sea bass.
Okay.
Was probably the one thing I caught more than anything over there. And
Gotcha.
I was only there for a year.
Okay.
Um, and I only got to go, I think, three, maybe four times
Okay.
in the year that I was there. Um, and I didn't catch a whole lot,
Hmm.
mainly because you're fishing with with borrowed equipment. I had no I had no plans, no intentions of trying to fish while I was over there. So it wasn't
Gotcha.
like I was, packing up my fishing poles and tackle box and stuff like that,
Gotcha.
um, to take over there. And there's no sense in going to the PX to buy a fishing pole and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
because you weren't
using,
going to be there
yeah,
that long.
right, yeah. So you're using shared gear or borrow gear, and lures and what have you, and just I happened to run into a couple of people while I was over there that oh, we're going fishing next week, and they're like, hey, if you don't mind, I'm gonna tag along because I'm getting the twitch.
Yeah.
And sure, come along. So yeah, I got to fish over there.
Nice.
Um, of
That's
course, the big sandbox. Of course, there ain't nowhere to do fish over there.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but
Well, and it's funny because like so you mentioned Korea. So in the Marine Corps, one of our duty stations was in Okinawa in Japan,
right,
at Camp Fatima, and a lot of the guys, because they weren't there for that long, they would buy stuff, but then as they were leaving, they would sell it to the guys that were incoming. So whether it be like
right,
fishing stuff or radios or TVs or whatever, they were on their
right,
way out. They either they did their 18-month unaccompanied tour or whatever, and they were on their way out. And they'd sell the stuff that they weren't carrying back, that they had bought for over there. So it would change hands and pass its way down through the line and became kind of like community stuff. So but that I'm sure that had to be a little bit of a hassle, at times. But now Germany, did you ever watch that show River Monsters with Jeremy Wade?
yeah. I've seen it a few times. Yeah,
So if I'm correct, Germany is where, and I thought of this because you said you did a lot of catfishing when you were younger. Germany is where the Wells catfish is primarily the habitat. That's where he went fishing for that. A giant, one of those giant catfish that he used to go for. Did you have any cool catch stories from Germany?
um, nothing extreme like on that show.
Okay.
But I think probably probably the biggest catfish that I ever caught
Mhm.
was when I was younger and lived in Germany.
Oh wow.
Um, and it was, oh, I think it was probably a 13, 14 pound
Oh wow.
catfish that
Yeah.
that I caught. When you're 9, 10 years old fighting something like that.
That's a sea monster, man. That's a kraken.
Yeah, yeah, that's, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, uh, and it's funny is because this was actually, it was like the second time I had ever done it.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I was reeling this thing in, and of course it's fighting, it's pulling, and it's wearing my little butt out,
Yeah.
and I grabbed I grabbed the pole, threw it over my shoulder, turned around, and started walking to just drag. uh, and say that was the second time I'd ever done it. The first time I'd done that, I was even younger, and we were fishing. We were on vacation,
Okay.
and we were fishing off of the uh, fishing off the Gulf down in Florida,
Okay.
and I had caught a saltwater drum,
Oh wow.
and and yeah, and I fought that thing. It took me about half an hour to get it in, um, and finally got it in. And my baby sister, she was maybe a couple of months old at that
Okay.
time, and my mom and dad have a picture, believe it or not, of the fish. My dad's holding the fish next to my baby sister, and the fish is bigger than she is.
Oh
So
wow.
so
Wow.
yeah, it was.
That had to be a heck of a fight.
Yeah, oh yeah, like I say, it took me probably a half hour, if not longer,
Wow.
if I remember right, to get that thing in. But it was multiple times during it that I grabbed the pole, threw it over my shoulder, turned around, and just walked to drag it because I got my arms were so tired of cranking that reel.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. You have any other just crazy fish stories or anything, whether it's yourself, somebody you were fishing with, anything just kind of not the norm from fishing or just a personal best or
I think, I believe it or not, uh, one of my all-time favorite fishing memories is one that I had just since I moved out here
oh wow.
to California. Moved out here to California. Um, my son and I were out fishing on one of the lakes here,
Hmm.
and early morning the fog was just starting to. It was still pretty foggy, some
Okay.
areas of the lake, and it was just starting to clear up. Sun was starting to burn through, and we're cruising along, and we look up, and there's uh, uh, a bald eagle
Oh
uh,
wow.
on a tree branch. Right, if we were within probably 50 yards, I guess, or less
Nice.
from this. So and just seeing that, it was like, okay, whether I catch anything or not, my
Your
day's
day's
complete.
made now, right?
Yeah, my day is made. Here I am out here, enjoying myself, spending time with my son, um, you know, bonding with him, and then something like that happens. Is like, okay, it's worth it.
It's majestic. It's majestic,
It, is-
and
it really is. It really is, and
yeah.
it's and I don't know. It's not just it's not just a military thing.
Hmm.
Um, I don't believe because I'm sure other people get stirred, by seeing a bald eagle. You know,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. There's there. So I've seen them. It's not very often that I see them. Um, but there's a couple areas up on the off of, around the Delaware River
mhm,
where there are some nest cameras where there's bald eagle nests and they come back every year and they'll have
right.
cameras on them and when they lay the eggs and everything else and it's kind of cool and people just go nuts for it watching this stuff and I'll see osprey a lot and I don't ever feel bad if I'm not catching a lot of fish because they miss more than I do. Um, but it's cool watching them dive down and they'll scream as they're diving down and they hit the water and then they'll come up and once in a while they'll have something in their claws. I actually
Yeah,
caught a trout in the fall and it had a gouge behind its head and scrape marks on its body. So it was it probably got itself free from an osprey or some type of um, bird like that. Um, and then I ended up catching it. But it's kind of cool watching that stuff, watching it in action.
I
Um,
uh, I watched I watched a show not too long ago. Well, I say not too long ago. It's been a while. I watched a show um, where guys were buddies were out fishing, and they were
mhm.
fishing on Kentucky Lake, where out where I used to live there in Tennessee,
Nice.
and one of them was reeling in a fish, and while the other guy was videoing it,
Hmm.
and while he was reeling this fish in, an eagle swooped in and grabbed the fish he had.
Oh
It was still
wow,
hooked. Yeah, it was
wow.
still hooked. It was wild. Um, and then it wasn't too long after that uh, the video ended. So I don't know if the eagle let go or if the or the line broke. I don't know.
Man,
All I seen in the video, and I thought to have something like that happen.
Yeah.
That would that would just make that'd be my all time favorite memory for something like that to
Yeah.
happen.
I'd
For
be
it
like,
to
all right,
happen
cool.
to
Take
me.
the fish. Give me my lure back. That's all I want.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm done. Right, I'm done now. I can never fish again in my life, and I would be happy. You know,
Yeah.
so,
I've
you know,
never
but
seen a bird take a fish. I've seen um so where I do the spring trout fishing, it's the Delaware Raritan Canal, different spots on that,
mhm,
and there are muskie in there. If you're familiar with
okay,
muskie pike, pickerel, like freshwater barracuda, right? Torpedo
mhm,
shaped teeth, and and some old guys were there, and they were telling me how um, he said he doesn't put his fish on a stringer anymore. He puts them in like a wire cage
mhm.
because he had them on a stringer. He had five on a stringer, and the limit was six, and he was trying to catch that 6-1, and all of a sudden his stringer over by his stringer, the water's like splashing and bubbling. He said he didn't know what was going on. A muskie took 3 of the 5 trout off his stringer.
Wow.
And he said, if I was younger, I'd have gone in there and wrestled the thing up onto the bank. He says, because he stole my fish. Um, and I never saw that happen. But the one night I was out, I probably had about a half hour, 40 minutes till it was dark, right? And I tossed my power bait out and I let it drift under this bridge because there's a couple like deep pockets where the trout will sit and face upstream and they'll snatch anything that's floating down. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching under the bridge, and right across the canal from me, there's like a hard, like wooden wall that, yeah, where the bridge, the forms are and everything. And it sounded like somebody threw a cinder block in the water. And I looked up and I said, well, I'm done. The trout ain't gonna bite no more. It was a muskie, and he hit that wall. He must have been chasing a trout, and he hit that wall, and it was such force, like the sound. It sounded like a cinder block, and I just packed up and called it a day, and didn't worry about catching my limit for the day. But muskie is one fish that has eluded me, and I've seen them. Can't get them to bite for anything. I do okay with pike, but muskie, they just laugh. They just laugh.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's cool seeing that. And then the other place where I went fall trout fishing, they said in the spring, they said there's some bass in there that are so big they'll come grab your 9, 10, 11 inch trout right off your line while you're reeling it in. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going there and doing some bass fishing this spring and everything. But now, is there a species that you target nowadays more than anything else, or do you just kind of go out for whatever?
I have always been, um, I guess you could say, I love to go crappie fishing. Absolutely love it.
Nice.
In my opinion, pound for pound, um, they give the best fight, um, and they're one that you have to finesse them,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're gonna rip their lips off. You know,
Yeah. 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 They
you
have
know.
a more delicate
Um,
mouth.
Right, yeah. I think if I remember, we called them when I was growing up. One of the terms they were called a paper mouth bass. Um, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, crappie is probably my favorite pound for
Nice.
pound to fish for. Um, that and they just I love the fight. I love the taste.
Gotcha.
Because we used to catch quite a bit of them and fillet them out and take them home and fry them up.
Nice. Nice. I haven't done that. I don't do a lot. I don't eat a lot of seafood. So I mostly catch and release. Um, I'll catch when I catch trout. I'll clean them and fillet them for family and friends.
Mhm.
And when no family and friends want anymore, I stop fishing for trout. But uh, but crappie, it's I've had crappie hit 4 and 5 inch live shiners. I've had
Mhm.
crappie hit 5 inch topwater walking baits, and you're right. The fight, like I didn't think it was a crappie until I got it close enough and I could see the fish, and I couldn't believe it. And
Right.
they do put up a nice fight, and they can get pretty big. They can get dinner plate size. I've seen them. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah. They're on Kentucky Lake where I live there in Tennessee.
yeah.
They've got some slabs in that lake that yeah, if you're not careful, they'll jerk the pole right out of your hand.
Right,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, they can be very aggressive, and they put up a nice fight. There one lake I go to, there's a guy who he'll do some bass fishing here and there, but 9 times out of 10, when I ask him what he's throwing, it's a crappie jig, and he's going for crappie, and
mhm.
he's the same way. He just loves that fight. And there's a few other guys that'll come out there, some older guys that'll come out there, and they fish for crappie too, and they'll just sit there and go for crappie all day long, and it's a tremendous fight. It's pretty cool. Have you ever hooked into something that you wish you hadn't?
Yes, yes. Um, a couple of different things, believe it or not.
Really?
When just before my dad retired,
Hmm.
I was in high school at the time. We lived in Indianapolis.
Okay.
My dad was stationed at Fort Benjamin Harrison there in Indianapolis,
Nice.
and on the base there was two. Um, well, one they called pond, the other they called it lake. They were ponds.
Okay.
Um, they weren't really big, and one of them, it was Duck Pond and Alligator Lake is what they were known as,
Okay.
and one of them, it I never the whole time I ever fished there, never caught anything out of that pond other than snails.
Snails.
Snails. You
Wow.
throw out you throw out and reel it back, your line back in, and you'd have a snail that would be on your hook. You'd have a snail that would be on your sinker, and you'd have a snail that would be on the line itself.
Wow.
all three, or one or the other, or any variation. It never failed. That's the only thing I ever caught on in
Wow.
that little pond.
I've hooked into them a couple times. There's some freshwater snails, and they'll
And
get about the size of a donut
oh yeah,
hole or a garlic knot. You know.
yeah, they were good. I mean, they were good size, and I mean, and I'm sorry, but I'm not eating them.
Yeah.
So we I'd take them off and set them on top of the lantern.
I hear you. Yeah.
Because
Uh,
I wasn't gonna throw them back in the pond because they're just gonna bite again.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then the next after that would probably be fishing the Sabine River in Louisiana,
Okay.
between Louisiana and Texas there, and I caught an alligator gar,
Oh wow. I heard they're a
and
nice fight.
well, it's the Cajun version, I guess you could say, or the hillbilly version of a muskie or a pike or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just ugly, ugly fish. um, and
Are they good
teeth
eating
can.
though?
Believe it or not, I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
Unless somebody made some and slipped it in with in a fish fry that I participated in down there. I
Hmm.
couldn't tell you if I don't knowingly know if I ever had any.
Gotcha.
Um, but so I couldn't tell you if it tasted good or not. If they did, then I could say yeah, it tastes good because I never had any fish down there that tasted bad. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, and then also snapper turtle. I
Oh, you're fading out a little
hooked me
bit.
into a
Hold on,
snapper
you're
turtle.
breaking up. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. What'd you
going
say?
on.
What was after that?
I said a snapping turtle. I actually hate
Oh,
hooking into a snapping turtle.
I had them
It just
hit one of my lures last year. I have a video on my YouTube channel. I hooked into a 35 pound, common snapping turtle. He bit a 12-inch top water weight bait snake that I was using, and it was not a fun experience. Not a fun experience. I hooked into some smaller ones after that and some red belly cooters. They go
mhm.
after my top water lures, and the smaller snappers and the red belly cooters I don't have a problem dealing with, but that big one, he was like Godzilla, and it was not. And that was the first time I ever hooked into one, so it was not a fun experience because I had seen videos on how you could pick them up without getting bit, but I hadn't done it before, so I didn't trust it, and it was a hairy experience for my first one. I would have preferred a smaller one to start out with, but now that I've done it a few times, I'm more comfortable with them. But we got another chat message here saying, do you have a favorite top water like frog, or do you like chatterbaits? Which, I mean, chatterbaits, you can run them up near the surface, but you can let them sink and kind of jerk them off the bottom as well. Or any other kind of top water favorite.
Um, I like what used to be. I don't know if they still call it that or not. I've got one that I've had for years and years and years. A hula popper.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Yeah.
and I like that. I like using the soft frogs, um,
Okay.
and also a chatterbait. Um,
Gotcha.
again, it depends on where I'm at. It depends on structure. What I'm fishing for and where I'm fishing at. I guess you could say.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm fairly confident of my abilities to use those baits. But the hula popper is probably my favorite of all of them.
I used to use when we were kids. I used to use my dad. He had a bunch of the hula poppers, and he had another one. It was called a jitterbug. You remember
Hmm.
that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
It had the hinged metal pieces on the sides.
yeah, yeah, and that
Yeah.
metal cupped mouth piece, kind of make it
Hmm.
like a wake bait almost. And
Yep.
I would use those, and I think I actually lost one of his one time, and he was none too pleased with me for that, because we would go during the day with our friends, and we would just grab his tackle box because we didn't have our own tackle box at the time. Because most of the time when he took us fishing, he hooked us up with worms and everything, and we were catching bluegill and catfish most of the time. Um, but yeah, he we would take his tackle box, and we would get in trouble all the time for making a mess of his tackle box or losing some of his stuff or whatever. But yeah, the hula popper, I haven't used the specific hula popper itself probably in a number of years. I'll have to see if I think they still make them. I'll have to pick one of
I'm
them up.
I'm I'm sure somebody is making
Yeah,
one. It may not be called a hula popper anymore, but I'm sure somebody's still making one, or at least something very similar.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah, I like uh, that action and that pop, that sound that
yeah.
that the particular lure makes. Um,
There's
and,
another
and
one by it's by Hedden.
mhm.
I forget the name of it. It's a stick bait, top water. Um, that another guy was using, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and it caused me to pick some up last year and try them out. I forget the name of the daggone thing though. I'll think of it as soon as we're off the air later. But
Yeah, that's usually how it works.
oh, a super spook.
Oh yeah, yeah.
By Hedden, and I hadn't
Hmm.
seen them in a while, and the guy was using the super spook, and I said, wow, I forgot all about that, and I went out and I picked a couple of them up, and they did well for me. I got into this top water craze last year because you know when you see that first top water explosion, you know it kind of there's nothing else like it, right? So I got hooked into that, and I actually I just did a video the other day of an unboxing with some different top waters that I'm looking forward to trying out this year and everything, and seeing how they perform because I look for stuff that's a little different. And again, the hula popper, you don't see a lot of people using them nowadays. If it's something that's different, um, and that's what I always look for too. If everybody else on the lake is throwing, you know, a particular type of lure, I always try to throw something different to give the bass a different look. I primarily go for bass when
Yeah.
I'm fishing, just because I love that fight. Some of the little ones will hit like a Mack truck, and some of the bigger ones you get this gentle tug and then your line's going tight, right? So you never know what you're going to get with them, but I love that excitement of it, and I do want to
Do,
get
do
more into
you,
smallmouth. Do I
I
what?
was just getting ready to ask. I was just getting ready to ask. Do you do much smallmouth? Because smallmouth is like a crappie.
Uh-huh.
You know, a 2 pound smallmouth will fight you like a 7 or 8 pound largemouth.
Oh yeah,
Or at least
they are
in my experience,
they are
they're
phenomenal.
ferocious.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are
phenomenal
ferocious.
fight. I've caught two smallmouth in my life. Okay, the second one that I caught was last year, and I was trout fishing, and it hit a power bait mouse tail, and it was 6 inches long. Okay, um,
Yeah.
but he had those red eyes like the smallies have, right? The first
Hmm.
smallmouth I ever caught, I was out in my kayak when I had my 14-foot Hobie Pro Angler, and I'm out in December at this reservoir in North Jersey, and I was going for rainbows and lake trout. And I had caught like a 20-inch rainbow earlier, and I was jigging a blade bait off the bottom for lake trout, and I was drifting, and I ended up it was right around 30 feet of water or so, and something hit it, and it was head shaking so much. I swore I finally caught a lake trout, right? And I'm reeling this thing in, and it jumped on me 3 times, and it was a 4 pound smallmouth, first smallmouth I ever caught in my life. This I thought I was going to lose it. He kept jumping, and I love when bass jump, but he was such an incredible fight. I was trying. I didn't want him to jump anymore because I was scared I was going to lose him. Right, but when he jumped that
Hmm.
first time, and I saw that bronze back come up, I said, "Oh man!" I was like, this is amazing." Like I couldn't believe it, and I landed
And
him.
4 pounds. That's a good size
Oh,
smallmouth.
that
That's a good
that
size
made my
smallmouth.
day, and I wasn't even trying for them. Now, I'll go on the Delaware. That the Delaware River spots there are supposed to be good for smallmouth fishing. Um, I haven't caught any. I haven't done it that much. I've only gone a couple times. Um, but I've seen some other people catch them, but they've been relatively small. You know, maybe 3/4 of a pound to like a pound and a half, 2 pounds max.
Right.
So they haven't been huge, but again, with smallies, it doesn't matter. Like you said, they hit like a Mack truck. They're ferocious.
They
Um,
yeah, yeah. They
what do
fight
you
like
use
they.
for your when you go smallie fishing?
When I go smallie fishing, I'll use mostly I'll use either a rooster tail or a spinnerbait,
Okay,
um, and of course a Rapala. But
okay,
usually it depends on because if I am smallie fishing, I try to get uh, in a swift water area,
okay,
which is where I generally tend to catch them if I do catch them. Um,
okay. So they like the
and
moving water.
in my experience, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The places where I have caught smallmouth is they like the cooler swift water.
okay.
Um, and like you were talking about with them with that musky and the trout hanging around like a bridge abutments.
Uh-huh.
Um, Smallmouth, in my opinion, or in my experience, tend to do the same thing. You know,
Okay.
most of those fish are ambush fish,
Yeah.
predators. So they're gonna
They'll
hang
hang around
out
cover.
they're gonna hang around cover. They're gonna hang around shade, and if you can pull it right along the edge of uh,
Gotcha.
that light line, I guess you could say.
Okay.
If you can pull it around, if you can pull it around that, you can generally tend to be very successful, or at least I do.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, when I went, I was using a Ned rig primarily. So the
Huh?
small 3-inch worm or so with the weighted jig head on it, and
Mhm.
it would hit the bottom and stand up. Um, and I was working the Ned rig. Uh, the couple guys that I saw around me that were fishing, and they weren't having much luck. I think only one of the guys caught, and he caught a couple small ones. But he said, "Oh, Ned rig all day long. That's all I use for smallies." So I was throwing that primarily. I did try later with a smaller top water, but um, I didn't think of again. I didn't think of like the rooster tail, the inline spinners,
Mhm.
and everything. So that's something like when you mentioned that earlier in our broadcast, that got me thinking. I was like, I again, you forget about certain lures. You start using other stuff, and then you forget about things. And especially at my age, my brain turns into an etch a sketch the older I get. It's like shuka shuka, and everything's just wiped clean. But
Right. Well, if you get into moving water, I guess you could say, and you can
gotcha.
find if you can find somewhere where um, you can get uh, a restricted area where water moves faster through it, through a
Gotcha.
smaller area. That's where I generally tend to find, and so by using the rooster tail or even a spinner bait, I can pull something up through there, and with the water moving,
Hmm.
I can just let it sit there. I don't even have to reel. I can sit there and just jig it back and forth and keep it in that one specific area. If I know, if I felt a hit, I'm going to pull back to that area. I'm going to jig it through that area a little bit just to see if I can entice a hit. You know,
Sweet. Yeah.
so with that, that blade on either the rooster tail or even the spinner, you're going to get motion. You're going to get sound.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll get that turbulence going. It'll start,
right.
creating.
So again, it's like it's like everybody learns as they fish. You just got to keep trying
And
different things and figure out what works for you. You know.
and that's one of the things. Like am I successful every time I try something new? No, but
No.
that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this channel is because I'm not a professional, right? And I don't always do things textbook. I do things in ways that people are products of their own experience, right? So I do things that have worked for me, and when I try something new, I'm trying to figure it out. But I'm trying to show people too, like, don't be afraid to try something different. Don't be afraid to keep at it and work it different ways or rig it up differently or whatever until you find the way that catches fish for you, right? And to me,
Exactly.
I don't care what the textbook says, and I don't care. Like, I'll look at some of the apps and they have bite times, and they have the bass bite better on a when it's a full moon or when it's a new moon, or if your favorite color is blue and it's a Wednesday or whatever. I don't follow all that stuff as gospel, because it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes, depending on the body of water you're at and everything else, and the way I look at it too is, if you're having fun and you're catching fish, then you're not wrong, and nobody can tell you you're wrong. Are you doing something different? Yeah, but if you're catching fish and you're enjoying yourself, who cares what anybody else thinks or says, right?
I mean, there's been many times that I've gone out and I never even get a bump, let
Yeah.
alone catch anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the old expression: a bad day fishing is always better than a good day at work.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
that's why they call it fishing and not catching.
It's,
You know.
that's a line I use it quite often, my friend. I tell
You
people all the time. But so that actually kind of brings up another question. So what is it that you get out of fishing? What is it you enjoy about it? Whether you're catching fish or not, obviously it's always more fun when you're catching fish. But what does fishing bring to your life?
a sense of calm,
Hmm.
I guess you could say. I'm able to block anything and everything that has been or will be bothering me,
Hmm.
and just block it out and just get out there and just throw a line,
Yeah.
or as my dad used to say, let's go drown a worm, you know,
Yeah.
uh, let's go
Yeah.
drown a worm. You got it. I'm all for it. It doesn't matter. I can be having the absolutely worst day ever, um, and grab a pole and go sit on the bank, or sit in a boat, or stand off. It doesn't matter. Stand off a bridge.
Yeah.
Half hour. A half hour later, I'm calm. I'm
Hmm.
I'm in a better mood. I'm in a better place in my mind, and and that's all it is. You know,
And
you know,
it's
some
cool because I find that for a lot of people, it's that sense of calm. It's being out there in nature. You listen to the birds chirping. You see like the what are those birds called? They're about the size of a duck or a little smaller, and they'll go under the water and swim underwater and catch fish, and they'll come up like 200 yards away. I think they're called cormorants. I think is one.
uh,
Is cormorants one, or is it a loon, or
loon, loon is another one. I believe
loon's another
there's
one?
plenty of them. I like
Yeah.
watching. Believe it or not, yeah, believe it or not, I like watching, and I've seen them a few times. The kingfishers,
Oh, sweet.
kingfisher birds.
Yeah,
They
I've seen a few of
they'll
them.
they'll hang out on they'll hang out on branches, that hang over the water, and
Hmm.
they just basically just fall off the branch, dive down, and then they come back up and they've got a fish in their mouth that's almost as big, if not bigger than they are, and they just
Yep.
you know flip
Yep.
it around, turn it up, and down the gullet it goes,
Yep.
and so and I'm thinking, if I could do that, I would too, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Them and blue
He's
herons. I see a lot of blue
That's
herons
why
around, and
that's that's why they call it the kingfisher. Okay,
yeah.
that's what my dad always told me. He's got it down. He's got it down to a science.
Yep.
Okay, we're just fishermen. That's the kingfisher. So
I'll sit and
so
watch them too, and it's cool. And like we mentioned Osprey earlier, I
mhm.
was out on my kayak one day. I forget what the name of the lake was, but it was something around the name of the lake gave the impression that it was like good luck, and I wasn't having any luck that day. So I heard this scream, and I looked, and this osprey was diving, right? So I sat there and I was watching, and within about 10-15 minutes, there were six more osprey circling up above, and they take turns screaming and diving, screaming, and none of them caught a daggone thing. But I sat there watching him for like a good 45 minutes to an hour. And I felt better about not catching anything after they didn't. Also, but you got to do something to help your ego out, right? But I like sitting there and watching in nature and the sights and the sounds, and like you said, it's calming, it's peaceful, and it's funny because like I mentioned I'll go fishing with I'll take my nephew fishing a lot, and when kids are young, they like to be constantly entertained, right? They like to be constantly catching fish and everything, and if not, a lot of times they become disinterested, and then they're playing and picking weeds and everything else. And my nephew, the one day the bite had kind of cooled off a little bit, and he's like, "Do you want to get ready to leave soon?" And I said, you know, one of the things about fishing, I was trying to explain to him about like nature and kind of taking in your surroundings and kind of that calming and meditative effect that it has and everything, and how you're, like you said, your problems just kind of disappear, right? Because you're out there, you're fishing and you're enjoying yourself. And I said, you know, you have to get used to not catching fish the same way you're used to catching fish, right? Because that's gonna, as you get older, that's where your enjoyment's gonna come. And he wasn't really having much of that explanation at the time, but what happened was I ended up catching a fish not a few minutes after that, and then he didn't want to leave anymore because he wanted to beat me. He didn't want me to beat him on the day with number
Right.
of catches. So he's like, well, no, we could stay for a little bit longer now because he wanted to catch more fish. And it was funny how that came about. But yeah, I try to instill, you know, when I take somebody fishing like that, like it's not always just about catching fish, right? Because like you said,
No, no,
it's
no.
that's why they call it fishing and not catching. And you have to be at peace with not catching anything as well, right? It's like
Right.
that
Oh
old
yeah.
saying, be ready for success, but don't expect it, right? I'm ready to catch fish, but I'm not necessarily expecting it because I'm out there to kind of enjoy and be one with nature. And you know, like you said, it's stress relief, it's meditative, you forget your problems, and you know, and when you're done,
I think
you go on about your day.
yeah. I think the biggest thing is for me is watching, um, whether it be my son and grandson fishing together, watching how they interact,
Yeah,
and and remembering how I interacted with my dad and how my son and I interact together, and seeing it
yeah,
basically just seeing it basically going, you know, through the generations, and whether it be my family or somebody, you know, somebody else that's out fishing on the lake or on the river, you know, within sight of me, and seeing another father and son, or you know, uncle and nephew, whatever it be,
yeah.
or you know, and I'm saying guy, but it could be a girl too. My
Yeah.
granddaughter, my granddaughter absolutely loves to fish. You
Real
know,
awesome. How
absolutely
old
loves
is
to
she
fish.
now?
She is 13.
Oh, sweet, sweet. And you know, that's an age where the teens, you know, the kids usually want to start spending more time with their friends, and you know, or they got
Oh
their
yeah,
face buried in technology nowadays. So if she loves fishing,
oh yeah,
that's pretty awesome. That's
yeah.
pretty awesome.
So
So
yeah, yeah, and so yeah, and whether she, and it's one of those, you know, whether she never fishes again in her life,
mhm.
the experience that you have at that time is something that you never forget. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, it's
it's
those
always,
memories,
you
like you
know, it's
said,
always,
it brings those memories
yeah,
back from your childhood, and when you
exactly.
can give those same kind of memories to a younger kid nowadays, it's one, they're going to be that next generation of the sport, right? And
Yep.
and you get even adults, like I've had the one lake I go to, I've turned around because I'm usually like knee deep in the water, right? And
Mhm.
and casting out because I don't like being near the trees because I'm not the most graceful guy in the world. And I'll get hung up if I'm casting it around trees. So I'm usually knee deep out in the water, and I've turned around before, and there's been there was one last year, guy sitting in a chair watching me, and I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, you mind if I sit here and watch you for a bit? I said, no, that's fine. I said, do you fish? And he said, well, he's from Florida, he's only done salt water, he wants to get into fresh water because he's up this way now. And I said, yeah, sure. So he's sitting there and he's asking me questions. And it was funny because it was when I was just starting the channel out, and I kept forgetting to hit record when I was going out to start fishing. And he was like my reminder for a while. He's like, did you start the camera? Did you start the camera? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And he sat there and watched me, and he'd come out and he'd ask questions. And then when I'm catching something, he's like cheering and hooting and hollering, and other people are gathering around. And I was like, wow, it's like, it was kind of cool. So even adults, you know, but nothing quite beats when you can get those kids to their faces to light up, you know?
Oh yeah.
Now, how young was your granddaughter when you got her started?
It's within. Well, I've only lived here in California for a little over 2 years.
Okay,
Um, and now whether she had been in the past before that, I'm not sure. I don't
gotcha.
think so, but she has, the few times we've taken the family out, she has, enjoyed it, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Um, so, and we've got a picture of her holding a fish that's it might weigh. Well, I've seen some chatterbaits that are bigger than this fish, and
yeah,
her holding it up, next to her by the line, just a big smile on her face. It's like,
yeah.
I don't care. You know, what?
They don't care if they're, as long as they're catching something. A buddy of mine, he's an Air Force vet, but I don't hold it against him. And
Somebody has to
and
be.
his son loves fishing, but he doesn't. My buddy doesn't fish, so I started meeting up with them, and we try to do it a couple times a year if we can. Um, and he caught his first bass, and I fished with minnows that were bigger. The thing was like 4 inches long.
Yeah.
And but you'd have thought he hooked into Moby Dick. He was
Oh
so
yeah. Yeah.
over the moon about it,
It
and that
it
was what
doesn't
got him
matter.
hooked. You
Yeah.
know,
It doesn't
and
matter.
then we went a couple other times. So to get him on some better fish, um, if I hooked into one first, I'd be like, "Hey B," I was like, "Come over, I need help reeling this in," and I'd hand my pole to him once I got the fish hooked, and I let him reel it in, and he would just like his face lit up, and that's what got him really hooked on it, and everything. And last year he caught a couple of 2 pounders, 2.25 pound bass, when we went, and he was ecstatic. He was ecstatic. So it's awesome with that. Let's just say chair force fishing chair. Yep, something there for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bust his chops because he's Air Force, and he busts my chops because I'm a Marine, and um,
Okay. Everybody. Oh, I'm just gonna say this. Okay.
mhm.
Nobody grew up playing Navy. Everybody. Every kid I know grew up playing Army. Okay.
Yep, yep.
So.
Hey, I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm guilty of it too. So even though I'm a Marine, but yeah, it's
Yeah. I chewed the same dirt, so well, we all chewed the same dirt eventually, so we
yeah,
can make fun of each other. We can make fun of it,
exactly.
but it's all in sport.
Favorite. Somebody's asking what's my favorite flavor crayon. My favorite flavor crayon has got to be the red ones. The purple's a close second, though. The purple's a close second. In fact,
It,
I don't know if you guys can get it out there. There's a brewery here in New Jersey, um, and it's called Icarus Brewing, and they make a beer. I say they got to have a Marine that works for them, or they made this for Marines, because the beer, it's an IPA, and it's called Drinking Crayons. And I'll
I
text your son a picture of the can so he can see what I'm looking at. We have a chain out here called Buy Right Liquors, and
uh
they carry it. But yeah, if you look around, I don't know if you can get it out there on the West Coast, but it's a pretty smooth beer, and it's not bitter hoppy like a lot of IPAs are. It's pretty smooth.
I'll have to send you a picture of it, but I got a picture on my phone um, of a package of MRE that it's Crayola. That's the meal. So yeah.
A Marine will pick a MRE over Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, man. We love them.
Yeah.
So it's like a delicacy when you come across them. So yeah.
Uh,
So I got a comment here. You were stationed out at Fort Dixon, New Jersey.
I went through basic training at
Oh
Fort
wow.
Dix.
My uncle, who's a
Yeah,
Vietnam vet, Army vet, went to basic in Fort Dix, I believe,
yeah.
and
I,
my
I went through
grandfather was
basic.
stationed there.
Yeah, I went through basic training at Fort Dix, and then I went through AIT at Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland.
Oh wow, wow. Now,
Long, long time ago.
so when you were on Fort Dix, let me ask you something. The did they have the Air Force commissary and PX built yet, or on the Air Force side, or did they still have the commissary over on the Dix side by the train where the train station was?
No clue. The only time
Okay,
I think, while I was there, we got to go to the PX. We were still in 0 week, and we got
okay,
to go to the PX. They escorted it. They marched us to the PX so we could get specific items off of our list,
gotcha.
that they gave us, and then they marched us away.
Okay,
Um, Now we did see, in many of our marches to and from ranges, we could see the planes that were out on the airfield.
gotcha.
Um, but I think that was probably the closest,
Okay,
that I was ever able to. So,
I gotcha,
and
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's
didn't.
different
They
now.
didn't.
It's
They didn't give us any kind of passes or anything like. Yeah, yeah. I was
okay,
in the Black Boot Army. I was in the Black Boot Army. So yeah, it's
okay, yeah.
completely different now.
What without getting too personal, what year did you go into the army?
I went in '85.
85. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in 92 and
Mm-hmm.
I went to high school um right near Fort Dix and McGuire. In fact, the McGuire Air Force Base kids that lived there went to my high school, and the kids that were dependents from Fort Dix went to a different high school called Pemberton. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, when I was growing up, it was still all open, and then after 9/11, of course, everything changed, and now Fort Dix and McGuire is all fenced off. Like you used to be able to drive down the one road that went through, kind of split between Dix and McGuire, and you could sit there and watch the flight line and watch the planes take
Mm-hmm.
off and land and all that stuff, and go through the Browns Mills and everything else. And now obviously with 9/11 everything's tightened up and fenced off and all, and some of
Oh
the
yeah,
roads aren't even there anymore. They changed a lot of that stuff when they fenced it up. But yeah, a lot different. But I was in that area starting around 88, was when I started high school, and
yeah,
I graduated in 92 and went to Marine Corps from there. So
yeah. Like I say,
yeah.
I went from there. I went from there to Aberdeen Proving Grounds in
Oh
Maryland
wow.
for AIT, and
Okay.
then from there to Fort Bliss.
To Fort Bliss. I was stationed out of Fort Bliss in El Paso. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
stationed out there for a little bit, and not a lot of fishing out there either.
No, not really. We went to when I lived there as a child as well. My dad was an instructor at the Air Defense School,
Okay.
when I was when I was younger, and we went to up into New Mexico to Elephant Butte. Uh,
I was there
quite
once. I was at
we
Elephant
went
Butte
there.
once.
We went there quite a few times,
Okay.
and beautiful area,
Yeah.
beautiful area. And we always went. We would spend basically like a whole weekend, and
Nice.
camp out and swimming and fishing and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, nice.
And just having basically a family weekend, uh, with everybody together.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I went up there one time, and it was kind of like a beach day type thing, just hanging
Uh-huh.
out, going in the water, sunbathing, that kind of stuff. Fishing wasn't even on my mind because, again, at Fort Bliss, it's like a big beach with no water, right? There's just sand
Yeah,
and rocks everywhere. So, fishing wasn't even on my mind at that point. But um, Elephant's Butte was beautiful. It was
yeah.
beautiful out there. So,
Well, because of growing up in the military,
hmm
we didn't grow up in the same neighborhood or with the same kids through the same school system. all
Yeah.
of our life. So mom and dad tried as much as they could because of us moving all the time to get us to experience as much of where we were at the time,
And
as much
that's
of the as much of the culture as possible.
and that's awesome. That's awesome
it,
because
it
it
really
gets
is.
you out
You know,
there.
I got to see and experience a lot of things that a lot of people will never ever get to experience or see.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. The bad thing is I couldn't tell you who I sat next to uh, in fourth, fifth, sixth, grade through school. I have no clue. I wouldn't
I
know
hear
him
you.
from Adam if I was to see him today.
Yeah.
Um, so, but the thing is, because of growing up in the military like that, um, we never had a best friend, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I have friends, I have good friends, but that best friend, my two brothers and my sister, myself, when we were growing up, we were our best friends.
Yeah.
Um, because about the time you started getting really good friends with somebody, either they were leaving or
Or
you
you
were
were.
leaving.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but again, me and my two brothers and my sister, we don't know a stranger. I can sit down and talk with somebody for half an hour. Never met him in my life. Talk with him for half an hour. Get up and walk away, and somebody says, "Who's that?" I don't know. Somebody just met. Really?
Yep. And it's funny you say that because that's the point I was going to make too. Is so you may not have had that tight core group that you grew up with, your whole childhood, but because of that, so there's a couple things that I think went on there, right? So you had those family experiences where you got out, you went and saw different places, you have those memories and those experiences, but you also, because of that situation and how your parents raised you, it made you more adaptable to where, like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
you don't have there's no strangers, right? You could talk with
Yeah.
anybody, and not a lot of people can do that, right? People, a lot of
Right.
times people are sheltered. They can't say hi. You say hi to them, they can't say hi back because they're so nervous and everything else. But when you have that type of environment and you grow up and you're used to it, you're used to moving around, you're used to just going up to people cold and talking to them, and
Yeah.
it I think that serves you a lot better in a lot of ways,
I do it. I do it when I'm fishing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can catch somebody off guard. And you can
Yeah.
tell. Okay,
Yeah.
they'd rather not talk, I'm polite.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be I'm not going to be a butthole about it.
Yeah.
And I'll walk away. And it doesn't offend me. I mean,
Yeah.
because everybody is different.
Hmm.
Everybody's raised different. Everybody has different experiences. You know, but like I said, I can sit down and talk to somebody for half an hour and
Yep.
don't know them from Adam. You
Yep.
know, and I'll realize within the first 30 seconds that I can't stand this person. You know, and st- and and still talk to them for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And
and
be polite about it and everything else,
and
right?
be polite about it,
And
and be
yeah.
polite about it, and then never talk to that person never again.
Yeah.
Never even see that person again. So
And
it
it's the situation, it's similar, right? I'll run up, and I have there's regulars at the different lakes that I go to that I frequent, and I'll always stop and talk with them. Sometimes new people start talking to me, or I say hi to them and talk to them, and some of them we hit it off and go down the rabbit hole of conversation, and I don't get to fishing for an hour, and other ones it's shorter, but it's, and like you said, sometimes you read the room and you're like, okay, this guy doesn't want to be bothered, or he don't, he's not very personable, or whatever the case may be, um, guy or girl or whatever, and but overall, when you're out fishing, like most people, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, most people are in a good mood when they're out fishing, whether they're
oh,
catching something or
absolutely.
not catching anything, and most people that are out there fishing, they don't mind talking to you and you
Yeah.
know and saying, hey, yeah, you know, this is what I'm catching them on, or what are you catching them on? If you're catching some and they're not, they want to know what you're catching them on, you know, and how
Oh
you're
yeah.
working the bait. Well, I'm using the same thing. I'm not getting bit. Well, what color are you using? How are you working it? Whatever. And we start
Right.
talking and picking each other's brains and figure it out, because you know you want everybody to enjoy it when they're out there and sharing knowledge, you know, and you never know when you're going to say something like you did earlier with the rooster tail, where I'm like, oh man, how did I forget about those? Right. And
Right.
now
Yeah.
it's on my mind that I want to pick a couple up and try them again this year. Right. Um,
Yeah.
so it's one of those things. Now, what do you have certain color lures that you stick to certain you know, do you have a certain like set of, these are the colors that I like to use and I don't get into all the crazy stuff, or
It depends on water clarity, in my
gotcha
opinion.
gotcha
Um, if certain, you know, if the water's murky, I'm going to go with this color. If the water's clear, I'm going with this color. If I can see deeper than today than I could
hmm
last time I was here, I'm going to go with a different color. You know, so
gotcha
it just depends. You know, and back a couple of months ago, well, last month was my birthday, and
oh,
my
belated happy
grandkids
birthday.
got, well, thank you, but my grandkids got me uh, one of those, I got fisherman's gift kits for
Gotcha.
my birthday, and it's one you open it up and it's just random fishing items that are in it, and
Gotcha.
it had some soft baits in there that I had never seen before, and I don't even know how long they've ever been out. You know, they could have been out for 20, 30 years or whatever, but there's color changing soft bait.
Really?
Um, yeah,
What
and it
causes the color
changes
change, like temperature or light
water
or
temperature. Water
okay.
temperature changes the colors of these
Oh
baits,
wow.
and I'm not used them yet. But I plan on using them the next time I go out.
Gotcha.
And I'll have to let you know on here how they've worked.
Yeah, definitely.
If I've had it, if
Definitely.
I've had any luck or not. But yeah, and hell, I might not have any luck the first time, but you know, I'll keep trying them different ways just to see,
Yeah.
because I know I'll catch something eventually on one of them. But you know,
Yeah. And it's funny, like I think I talked about this a little bit with James last week, but like I'll have a lot of my stuff, a lot of my lures are that green pumpkin or bluegill pattern, because a lot of the lakes that I fish, bluegill is the primary forage, right? There's not a
right?
lot, unless I'm fishing in Delaware, there's not a lot of places that really that I fish that have shad in there. Now, do I have shad colored stuff? Yeah, but so I'll stick with like the
Mhm.
green pumpkins. I usually have a darker, like a black with blue flake or black with red flake. And I'll have a white, some type of white or lighter color bone or something like that. And then, and then I'll have a chartreuse and maybe like a pink. For like if it's a murky water and I need something a little more contrasty that's going to stand out. But I don't usually, I used to, but I don't usually anymore get too crazy with the colors, because you know a bass isn't looking at that and go, that's a really cool color, that's why I'm going to bite it, right? You know, and they don't see the same way we do anyway. We're the ones that they make those crazy colors for, because I go, oh, that's cool looking, right? But a bass doesn't think like that. um
Brown pumpkin, green pumpkin.
okay.
They have some of them that I've got used in the packs that I'm generally rely on. One's called an oil slick. Um,
Yep, I've heard
I'll,
that one's done well.
then of course I'll go with the the purple and chartreuse and blues. And then if it has like a curly tail or a jig tail or something like that,
Hmm.
I'll go with the pink chartreuse or even a white curly
Gotcha.
tail sometimes.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah,
those are the colors. Those are the colors I generally tend to migrate to.
yeah, yeah. And I'll stick with that too. And last year was when I started working some pinks into it, because there were a few people around me that had pretty good luck with. In fact, my nephew caught that 6.1 pound bass on a bubblegum colored Senko. Um,
Huh.
so and then some other people were having luck with it, and I had something that was, I think it was a metholiate. They call it metholiate color. It's almost like a fluorescent orangey pink in a way. It
Mhm.
looks it almost looks like that mercurochrome stuff that we used to put on cuts when we were
Oh yeah.
kids or whatever. Um,
Ah,
and it's
yeah.
like that kind of color. And I had those, and I threw them one day, and I had good luck with them. So I started trying to incorporate a few more pinks into the mix, but I generally it's probably like 4 to 6 different colors that I kind of stick with. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh, uh, Pretty much me too. Every once in a while, um, in my opinion, if you look around, a lot of
Hmm.
times, if you're bank fishing, or if even if you're fishing from the boat, your
Hmm.
water level drops and you get up around tree branches and leaves,
Hmm.
and structure that's hanging out or in the water,
Hmm.
and just look at what's hung up,
Hmm.
um, and you can see what other people have been fishing with,
Yeah. Yeah.
and gives you more of an idea. Okay, well, if they're fishing with that, apparently I can give it a try. They may
Yeah.
not caught anything, but if not, oh well, I found out it doesn't work, and I'll just try it somewhere else. But
And
if
sometimes I catch myself some good lures that way too. Um,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely,
if they
yeah,
haven't
I
been
don't know how
sitting
many
there
times.
for a while and they're not all rusted up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I don't know how many times I've reeled my line in and caught another line
Hmm.
and keep reeling it in, and I've got a lure on the end of it to help. So every once in a while, I've got a fishing pole on the other end of it.
Oh wow, wow, that's
Uh,
pretty cool.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I think in my life I've caught 3 fishing poles in my lifetime.
Oh, you know what? I felt so bad for this one guy. 9 times out of 10, he's out there crappie fishing at this one lake, but he'll
Mhm.
go for bass too. And he had picked up a kayak, and he's out on the kayak the one day, and it's like late in the day, getting close to like dusk, maybe a couple hours before dusk, and he was out there, and he was catching fish and stuff, and he's got a couple different rods and reels with him. Well, he was on the phone and he's changing the bait out. Well, he turned, and the rod went right over the side of the kayak and in the water, and
Oh,
I hear him yelling, and I turned because I thought he had a fish. And I said, what's up? He goes, I dropped my rod. And I said, oh man. He goes, it's brand new too. He says, it's my favorite rod. And he goes, and I just got this thing. I said, well, how deep's the water you're in? He goes, it's gone. I'm not going in after it. I said, oh man, he was probably in about 8 feet of water. And I felt so bad for him. But yeah, I've seen people losing rods and reels like that before. Um, you got a best fishing joke or story or anything like that before we close out?
um, yeah, it doesn't involve me. It involves my brother and my uncle. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, but they were out uh, they were out fishing
Hmm.
on the lake not too far from where my uncle lives, and in a I think they were in like a 12 or 14-foot john boat.
Okay.
Had a little bitty, I think 9 horse Evinrude on the back of it, and my brother was in the front of the boat. My uncle was
Hmm.
in the back of the boat, and they they were getting ready to leave the area they were in, go to another area on the lake.
Gotcha.
So my uncle goes back, and it's a pull start motor. It wasn't electric start.
Okay.
Tiller, so. So anyway, my uncle goes to pull, and when he pulls, apparently it wasn't cranked down tight enough onto the transom, and it comes out of his hand or off the transom. So he's holding on to the tiller handle, but the motor has come off the transom and it's hanging over. So he's strong arming this thing in the water, and my brother, he's still on the front of the boat, just casting away, reeling
Not a care in
in.
the world. He don't care what's going on.
My uncle, he has about him. He says, "Hey, Bill Dance, you go fishing? You gonna help me?"
And you know what's funny? I think it was Bill Dance I saw in a video where his trolling motor popped off his boat and went all around, and he went in, he went and grabbed it. But yeah, oh my gosh.
That's exactly what. Yeah, that's exactly why my uncle just said that. He's like, "Hey, Bill Dance, you gonna help me or you gonna fish?" So,
Man, did he save it?
oh yeah. My brother went back and helped him get it up out of the water, and they weren't in that. I don't think they were in that deep of water. It may have been maybe 9 or 10 feet, if that deep.
Yeah.
So, but just trying to get it. He was strong arming that thing. Holding on to the tiller handle to keep it from falling. There's my brother on the front of the boat, just fishing away.
Just fishing away, not a care in the world. He's just
Not
off
a
his
care-
own world,
Yeah.
and he was enjoying nature, right?
Yeah. Hey, Bill Dance, you gonna fish or you gonna help me?
Man, oh,
Yeah, it was hilarious.
oh, man, his heart must have been in his throat when that happened.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And and growing up, I always thought my uncle was one of the biggest guys I ever seen in my life. And then as I got older and got bigger, it's like, hey, you ain't as big as I thought you were.
Yeah. You were a lot bigger when I was 7.
But and here I am, almost 60, and I still know better than to go up against him, though.
Yeah. That's
he's in his 80s, and I wouldn't go up against him to save my life.
yeah. The old Lions still got a couple good ones left in them,
Absolutely. He could probably still strong. He could probably still strong arm that motor by the tiller handle to this day.
You know what? They made people tougher back then. That's all I'm gonna say. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's they lived harder. Things weren't as easy for people, and it's like each generation, it's like people get softer and softer because things get easier and easier. But they made them a lot tougher back then.
But fishing's still fishing.
Fishing's still fishing, and we love it. We love it.
Yep, and it's still humbling.
Oh yeah. You got to have a little bit of humility, to be a fisherman.
Absolutely.
There are days you get skunked out there, and nobody enjoys it. We always love it when we're catching fish more. But hey, I got a question for you, and I've asked this to my viewers, and I know I said I was going to let you go, but I just thought of this. What would you rather happen when you're out fishing? A, would you rather hook into one gigantic fish and that's the only thing you catch all day long? Or B, would you rather be pulling in 1, 2, and an occasional 3-pounders, one after the other, just all day long, reeling them in, just bite after bite after bite? Do you have a preference? Everybody always chases that giant, right? But what would you prefer?
I would prefer the continuous catching all day long.
Gotcha.
Honestly, and in my opinion, nothing is ever going to beat that fish I caught when I was younger that was bigger than my baby sister.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Because of the way it
even
made you feel at that age.
because of the way it made me feel at that age. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like Superman at that age.
Yeah.
You know, and so even if I was to go out and do some deep sea fishing right now and pull in a couple 100 pound tuna or something like that, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to make me feel like I did when I was a kid, with my dad, fishing there and catching that saltwater drum. So
Nice.
catching fish all day long, or even more than every hour or two,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
I'm
So
the same
yeah,
way. I mean, I wouldn't shake a stick at it if I caught a giant. If I hooked into the Kraken, great. I'd love it all day, and I'd milk it too with my nephew. But for the bragging rights. But some of those smaller bass, like I said, they got that big bass energy, and they'll nail a bait, and they'll put up a fight like you wouldn't believe, and take you down in the weeds and everything else. And when you're hitting one after the other, and you're exhausted after the day of fishing because you're just tired of reeling, to me that's a good day of fishing, right? But even a bad day of fishing where you don't catch anything, I'm so happy. But
everybody wants the lunker, but
yeah,
you got to you got to remember, you can have that you can have that record for a day, you can have that record for 10 years, but eventually somebody's going to catch one bigger.
exactly,
You know,
exactly,
so but you're always and you'll always remember that, but you're always in my opinion, I'm going to remember that day that I caught limit uh, within an hour after hitting the water.
yeah, yeah.
So,
No, that's a cool take on it. I like that. I like that. Well, hey, Bob, I really appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday and spending
absolutely,
it
I had a blast.
with me and the Whiskey Tango fishing viewers here. I look forward to updates from you when you do try those new baits out,
Oh yeah,
send me some pictures and stuff like that, and I'll post them up if you want. And I appreciate you spending some time and sharing your story with me and with the viewers here. So welcome to the Whiskey Tango fishing family, and I appreciate you, brother.
right. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure, my
Have a good.
pleasure. And any parting words before I close this out for the day, or
Yeah, yeah. Don't forget to keep the line wet and your butt dry.
yep. That's excellent advice. Excellent advice. Hey, thank y'all for joining in today. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching this episode of Hook, Line, and Service. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you always get notified when new content comes out. And if you liked what you saw today, give me a thumbs up. Put your comments down below. Let me know what kind of content you want to see. If you have any questions for me or for Bob, I'll pass them on to him. And let us know how you like the content. And again, thank you for joining, and I will catch you next time on Whiskey Tango Fishing.